Hi, Dean here, and I've gotten so much value from YouTube videos that people made for tips and tricks working on cars, doing restoration, that I thought, if I have a good tip or trick, I should share it, just kind of give back. So I'm shooting this video and I'll put it up on YouTube, and if you like it, give it a thumbs up, and if enough people like it, I'll do some more. So what I'm doing here is removing the A-frames, the swing arms, and the coil springs from a 68 El Camino frame. I don't run a shop, I'm not a professional, I'm just a hobby guy here in my shop, my own workshop. But I have been doing this a long time. I've been working on cars since I was 16, I'm 58, so that's about 42 years. And it occurs to me that the car I'm working on now is pretty much the same kind of car that I was working on when I was 18. I guess some things never change, but I like these old classic Chevys. So when you're taking the coil spring out of an A-frame system like this, those springs are under tremendous pressure, and if you just unbolt the A-frames, they're going to come apart, and you could really get hurt. It could be dangerous. So you need a spring compressor. And you can rent them, from AutoZone or O'Reilly's or something. I think they'll even loan it to you. Or you can go buy it at Harbor Freight or online or something. But the ones that the commercial ones, I don't like them. They're iron, they got some hooks, and they're a big hassle to get in. They don't compress the spring enough. I've used those, I just didn't like them. And years ago I found this article someone had written about how to make your own. And so I made it and I used it. And I think it works way better, and it's about $5 to $10 worth of hardware from Home Depot or something. All it is it's a piece of 1/2-inch threaded stock. You can see I think that's a 24-inch piece. It's probably more than you need. And then an eye bolt, 1/2-inch stock eye bolt, and then 2 nuts and a coupler, and some washers and another nut. And what you do is this shaft that you got to take the shock out to do this job. There's this shaft that goes through the shock. This one's old. I didn't feel like trying to hammer that out. I had an old one sitting around. So in the bottom A-frame, you bolt this thing up, you hook that on there, and then this goes up through the tower where the shock would go. You put this bolt and a couple of washers on top, and then you tighten this down and you cinch it up and hold that spring, and then you can unbolt the swing arms and then let this bolt, unscrew this bolt, let the tension out until there's no more tension, let it slowly down in a controlled way, and it's safe, and you got the whole thing apart. You can see I've already taken that one apart, all the tension's off it. I just got to undo the top swing arm, and the whole thing's going to come off. But I'll go ahead and do the driver's side. I'll show you kind of step by step how it works. But $5 to $10, easy, safe, and I think it works better than the ones you can buy or rent. Alright, the first thing you want to do is take this shaft off of a shock absorber and go ahead and bolt it up to the bottom of the A-frame, and you're going to hook the spring compressor onto that thing. And I'm just going to use one bolt. You do want to bolt it up, or otherwise it's going to move around and it's going to be a hassle. Alright, so that's bolted on there, and then you got to take this thing apart. And you got to take it apart because there's not clearance to get that up through there. So you undo this, and you're going to take this and stick it up under here, and then hook that eye bolt on that shock absorber shaft, and then you're going to put this part down through the shock tower at the top. And the bummer here is you got to take this all the way off so it'll go up through there. Alright, so I got the bolt off. I'm going to stick this down through the shock hole. And as I go down through the spring, I got to put this top bolt, this top nut on. Get enough thread sticking out there. And then I thread that into the coupler. You want to make sure you get it threaded all the way in, seated of course. And then, you know, here's the important tip. You got to tighten those bolts and the coupler down. The whole reason that you have those two nuts on either end of the coupler is so you can really lock it down, because if you don't, what can happen is as you're tightening and then loosening this thing, the stock can start threading its way out, and you may not notice, out of that coupler, and then it would come apart and it would really be bad. Then you run this down. Yeah, I got more stock here. You can probably get away with, you know, a foot less of this. But for different applications, it's just nice to have enough. I'm just tightening down this nut on top here by hand. Okay, so I've got this nut seated, a couple big washers on the top of the shock tower here, and that shock shaft that I put in and that eye bolt it's going to pull that lower A-frame up. So here I just take my wrench, 3/4 inch wrench, and I start tightening this thing up. You don't have to go much. All we're really doing is holding. We don't have to compress the spring so much as hold it from exploding out of there. When we take, I already took the nuts off the swing arm pivot bolts, so now all I got to do, now that I got the pressure contained, is tap those things out, and then that lower swing arm, the A-frame, is going to be loose. And then I'll loosen this thing. So let me do that. And you can take these apart. You can take the ball joints off if like you're replacing the spindle or the ball joint or something. You can use the same tool and leave the swing arms in place, but I'm replacing the swing arms, the spindles, the drums, all that. You know, I'm putting tubular swing arms and all kinds of cool custom parts on here. So I just want all of this gone, and the fastest, easiest way is to unbolt the swing arms. So I'm going to hammer on the end of the bolt here and get it out. And you're saying, hammer on the end of the bolt, aren't you going to bugger the threads? Absolutely. And I absolutely don't care, because these are 50-year-old rusty bolts that are not going back in. So I've got that one out, and I've got, you can use a punch or a drift. Another thing that works good, this is the tie rod pickle. You can actually slip it over the bolt, it works. So there, I just, hammered it that way, and that bolt is out of the one side. And now I've got to get this one out. course, if I were reusing these bolts, there's no way I would hammer on the ends. There's no way I'm reusing these bolts, so they can be sacrificed. Here's my pickle. And that bolt is out. So at this point, this compressor is holding, quite a bit of pressure. Because that swing arm is free, and as soon as I start unbolting this, it'll start coming down in a safe and controlled way. Now, as I'm doing this, I see this is turning, and you've got to guard against that. That's dangerous because it could come up out of the coupler and that'd be bad. So I'm holding it to make sure that that stock, that half-inch stock, does not turn. And it's still turning, so let me tighten this keeper. Do not want any surprises. So as this is coming out, the same thing happened on the other side. It's coming out crooked. So one pivot here is totally free, it's down about 2 inches, and the other one is still up in there. And so it's cocked and there's some pressure against it. And so what I'm going to do is take a floor jack and lift on this a little bit, right, to level it out, and that will pop. You don't want to go crazy, right, just level it. So I got my floor jack in place, and I'm going to just apply as little lift and pressure as I possibly can to get that other side unjammed. And you'll see it'll pop when I do it. But the important thing is I've got the compressor in place. It cannot go crazy on me. There it is. Pop! Now it's level. So that side is down, the thing's pretty well level, and now all I got to do is back this nut down and let all the pressure off this thing. Always making sure still that this threaded stock is not turning. That would be a bad thing. And then you can see it's still coming down, there's still some pressure on it. Keep loosening it up till there's no more pressure, till that thing's floating free. Yeah, it's tedious, takes a while. Problem is, because that's sunk in there, you can't get a good full turn on the nut. Get about a quarter turn. Just got to be patient. Oh, nice. Got about a 6-inch separation, and there's still some tension. We're letting it down. That's why there's a ton of pressure on these springs. I mean, these springs are, supporting half of a 3,500, 4,000 pound car as it's going down the road. Okay, that's finger tight now, so all the pressure is off. So now I can remove the bottom shock absorber shaft thingy. And I can take this apart. Unthread this, and it's out, except this. And there it is. Put this all back together and put it away for when it's time to put this thing together, just the reverse. Of course, we'll be a little more careful with all the brand new Hazoot parts that are going on there, the tubular swing arms, new spindles, disc brakes, all that cool stuff. But there it is, your $5 or $10 coil spring compressor. Again, I think it does a better job than the commercial units, and you get it for $5 to $10 worth of hardware. This is loose. All I got to do is unbolt the upper swing arm, take all this old stuff, can it, and I'm ready to finish the disassembly and then get this frame dipped and powder coated, and then start putting it back together with some really cool parts. Let me show you the rest of the project real quick if you're interested in it. So what we're working on here is a 68 El Camino. You can see I got the body off the frame, obviously. You know, if you're going to work on the front suspension, I definitely recommend pulling the engine, pulling the body. It is sure easier. But I'm taking the suspension all apart. I've got the rear axle out, and here is the body, and again 68 El Camino, and in about a week this is going to the dip shop where we're going to dip it in caustic solution and eat off all the old paint, any old body filler, seam sealer, and eat up and neutralize any rust. And there is some rust in the usual spots. You can see, maybe now the lighting's not good. Passenger floor panel over there, it's a Flintstone car, you can reach the floor. And the normal A-body spots in the front and back of the wheel wells, probably can't see that too good, but so it needs some body work, and so we're going to dip it. And then again, the frame, taking every single piece off, we're going to dip the frame and then have it powder coated and start putting it back together with, you know, nice performance. I'm going to use the QA1 Stage 2 suspension. It's going to have a Ford 9-inch rear end and a GM crate motor and GM factory performance stuff. So it's going to be fun. If you like this, I will provide updates if you want it. So give me a thumbs up, give me a comment. All right, thanks. And just to fast forward a little to look at the finished product here for fun. I had the frame acid dipped and powder coated and got it all assembled with the QA1 level 2 suspension, Willwood disc brakes, got the wheels and tires put on there, and it came out awesome. It is sure a lot more fun to work with new clean parts than the old greasy rusty stuff. But it came out awesome. There's the Willwood brakes, the tubular A-frames, and everything put back together. Again, came out really nice, really happy with it. And of course, here's the engine and transmission that are mounted in it. I got the GM LS3 500 horsepower performance engine and the Tremec 6-speed. Got the Ford 9-inch in there, and it is 389 gears, but with the 6-speed I ought to have tall enough gears for fun, you know, easy cruising on the highway. So that's the fast forward look. Thanks for watching.